Welcome to Krassensteins. Today we have a very special guest, U.S. Congressman Khanna from California's 17th District. Welcome to the show, Congressman.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me. And I love the show because you guys understand tech, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what I love about you. I feel that you're forward thinking, you have a clear understanding about where technology is headed, and I think that's important with a politician.
Well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I think it's key to actually understand technology because it shapes not just the future of the economy and jobs, but so much of our daily lives. And I appreciate that you get into the conversation.
Yeah, so we have a lot of really juicy questions today related to X, formerly known as Twitter, free speech, artificial intelligence, and some other fun things. But first, I want to talk a little bit about politics. I honestly feel you are one of the more forward-thinking politicians out there, more logical than most people in Washington, I feel. For example, you don't accept PAC money. You want a complete ban on stock trading for members of Congress. And you also want term limits in the Senate, the House, and the Supreme Court. This is a part of your government reform agenda that you're unveiling. Can you just talk a little bit about that and what it means for government?
Well, people have lost trust in government institutions. It's sad because actually most people who come to Congress have good intentions. They usually grew up going to rallies or writing in their local papers, and they want to do good, but they are caught up in a system that just isn't working. And there's some basic things we can do to get the system to work. One of them is to stop all of the PAC money that's coming into Congress, all of the special interest money. I haven't taken a dime of PAC money ever, but I believe we should ban PAC money, ban lobbyist money, ban big oil, big pharma from influencing the process that stymies legislation that's very popular. The second thing is the Supreme Court. I mean, who said that Supreme Court justices should be there for 40, 50 years? That wasn't the founders' intent. 18 years you're out, term limits on Supreme Court members. There should be a ban on any members of Congress trading stocks. I've been for the Trust Act that Abigail Spanberger introduced, and it's bipartisan. AOC and Matt Gaetz have introduced something. You can put it in a diversified S&P 500 or trust that eliminate the conflict of interest under that legislation. We need to get that passed. I've co-sponsored both. We need to have term limits on members of Congress and senators. Why have just 15, 20 years? I mean, you can do 12 years as a House member. You can do 12 years as a senator. We can debate the amount of terms, but let's get some term limits. And then we need a judicial code of ethics for Supreme Court justices. I think doing some of those things would restore people's confidence in government.
Yeah, I do too. Do you think that it's possible to actually pass a law that limits terms and especially the Senate and the House? Like, do you think that Congress and the Senate would actually go for something like that?
It's hard. I think that one of only a few Democrats who's ever sponsored that. Beto O'Rourke did, but it's hard. And I understand what happens is, look, I'm just getting seniority in the House, and so if you don't have term limits, and if everyone isn't term limited, then people say, well, I'm finally in a place to do something. Now I need to stay. So we've got to do it so it applies to everyone, so that you can be a leader a few years into your stay in Congress. But I think that's harder. The Supreme Court one, I think, is actually something which vast amount of Americans agree on, and maybe we can actually get done.
Yeah, I guess when it comes to Congress, you're kind of voting against your own interests in some ways, at least from some people's perspectives. I do want to ask you about, you talk a lot about, money in politics and such. I find it kind of hypocritical, or I guess I'd term it hypocritical, that we have Republicans on one end so outraged about Hunter Biden making all this money overseas in Ukraine and China, et cetera. And then on the other end, we had Democrats so outraged that the Trump family made so much money overseas when Trump was president, including Trump himself. But neither side's really willing to criticize their own side. Do you think it's possible to pass some sort of law that would at least limit the amount of money that families and politicians and their families could make overseas while they're in office?
Yes, and it's something that we need to change. You know, Harry Truman, who won World War II, retired and was not wealthy enough to afford a train ticket to come back to Washington, D.C. It used to be you go into public service not to make money. I mean, some people had money before they went into politics, but you shouldn't be doing after politics trading on public access. So I think a law that says family members of politicians cannot in any way invoke government officials in doing business, and having a clear code of ethics so that I mean, my kids are very young, but if my family members, extended family members, were doing business somewhere, they can't ever mention my name in the context of that. That's worth looking at, and that would get to this issue of not having people trade on public access.
Yeah, I don't think it's just about corruption. It's just about the appearance of corruption. If you give any appearance of corruption, it's not good for the country, in my opinion. I want to move on to free speech. I know you've been an advocate of free speech. You're actually one of the few Democrats who came out against Twitter banning the Hunter Biden story or censoring the Hunter Biden story from the New York Post back in 2020. You addressed that several times. You urged Twitter to protect the principles of free speech. How important do you think free speech on social media really is?
It's very important. I mean, we've as Americans become too reluctant to engage with people who disagree with us. And a lot of times, even when people go on Fox News, it's to score political points, so you can punch the other side and then have your video go viral. How about just listening to each other? How about actually engaging in conversation? How about recognizing that other people may have a perspective that may have some validity to it, because none of us have a monopoly on truth. We've got to recognize that it's good to engage other people, to listen to other perspectives. That's why I'm such a defender of free speech and making sure that we're not censoring things. Now, that doesn't mean you allow hate speech that incites violence. That doesn't mean that you create atmospheres where people can't have conversations. But as a basic principle, we want to be exposed to all different kinds of perspectives.
Yeah, like where would you draw that line, like between free speech, hate speech, or maybe dangerous speech? Like who decides what is maybe considered vaccine misinformation or opinions, hate speech, election disinformation, et cetera? Like how can you actually draw that line without making each side feel like maybe you're encroaching on their values or their opinions?
I think the Supreme Court has done a pretty good job with Brandenburg. We've got the best First Amendment jurisprudence, and I would take a lot of those First Amendment principles in helping design social media platforms. Now, you don't have to. Social media companies, a private actor, they can do what they want. But my view is, why not look to people who've been struggling with these issues for 200 years? And Brandenburg basically says that the speech, if it incites violence, that is not allowed. And so we should not allow speech that is threatening violence, inciting violence. And Brandenburg also says if it's some immediate threat to public safety, to public health. So if they're putting misinformation in a crisis that the government could argue is actually going to harm public health. But if it's beyond that, if it's just debate, if it's questioning things, I think you have to have a pretty broad openness to hearing different perspectives, and that's, you can push back, but when you censor something, you don't destroy it. You actually give it more credibility.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good strategy. I think that there's always going to be this debate between what is, I guess, hate speech. I think there's going to be kind of countering arguments like, does this cross the line of even hate speech or maybe even inciting violence? Maybe somebody would think that something I say is inciting violence, while somebody would say, no, that's not really technically inciting violence. So I think there's always that line, but I do feel that we could kind of come to a sensible, I guess, solution where both sides are kind of equal. And I think that you brought up a good point. Social media platforms in general, they don't have to allow for speech they don't want. You're kind of encroaching on their free speech if you start making laws saying they have to. So I get it. I think that some platforms are going to allow for free speech, I guess, while others might not. But back in December, you said that it was too early to say how well Elon Musk was handling running Twitter, which is obviously now X. Since then, you did a pretty amazing Twitter space alongside Elon. I loved it. I thought it was so informative. I thought you guys got along really well. You had another Republican congressman in there with you. I thought it was great. Has your opinion of Elon changed in the last 8 months, or have you? I just want to know your thoughts on him and Twitter and what he's doing at Twitter or X.
Yeah. Well, look, he's obviously a great innovator with SpaceX and Tesla, and there are places that we disagree. I certainly don't stand by every one of his tweets, and there are places that I disagree with him on Twitter. But what I would say is the core things of protecting the First Amendment. He himself has said that he doesn't want hate proliferating on Twitter, and trying to have more places like Twitter Spaces where you can have meaningful exchanges of ideas. That, I think, is really important. And we spend so much time worrying about how we get harmful speech off platforms. I wish we spent more time thinking about how platforms can create good speech, like what you're doing. I mean, how do we create forums for engagement and thoughtful interchange of ideas and cross perspectives? I actually think Twitter Spaces is one of the best places to do that. And we should have more of that and less of people tweeting at folks with one-liners that don't get the whole picture or context. So, I can't defend everything Elon has done. I mean, that would be no one, and I doubt it would defend everything I do. But my hope would be he goes more in creating things like Twitter Spaces and places where people can have these exchanges.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between tweeting or posting on X, I guess I should say, and taking part in a verbal conversation like we're doing right now. I think you have a better ability of understanding each other when it's voice to voice or person to person than when it's just a line of text on your computer screen or your mobile device. I think people are I think people have an easier time getting agitated and getting outraged at other people when they can't hear each other's voices. So I really like that about Twitter Spaces, because people can actually come together and discuss things, and you feel more of a personal connection there. I want to move on from X to AI, because I know you're big into supporting AI. I think you see what the future of AI has for humanity, a lot like Elon Musk does. I've been personally using ChatGPT a lot. For a lot of people might not even know what ChatGPT is. It's an AI bot where you can essentially ask it to do anything you want. Not anything you want, but you can ask it to do text-based commands. And you actually use this chatbot, this AI chatbot, to write an AI bill in Congress. How did you go about doing that?
Well, we used it to get a first draft. I mean, we said, why is it that when you go to a government website, I don't know if you've been to a government website, it's all cluttered. It's one of the most painful experiences to navigate. And that's not the case with a lot of websites in the private sector. And so we said, how can you use AI to make search more efficient? So if you go to a government website, you want some information on how to get a visa, how to get a passport, how to get a driver's license. It's really simple. And we're using AI's tools to do that. And so ChatGPT came up with the first version of the bill. Now, it wasn't anywhere sufficient. You still needed human people to tweak it, to help make it something that was going to be constitutional, something that could pass. And this, to me, is a great example of the use of AI. It's not to displace human thinking, human insight, human creativity, but it's to augment it. It's to supplement it. That's why when some people say, well, kids are doing papers on ChatGPT, I said, what classes are these? Because the professor should be able to know that these papers aren't that great. I mean, it's lacking insight and imagination. But you want people to be using the tools to get something on paper and to help their own thinking. And that, I think, is the balance that we're going to need to strike.
Yeah, like I use ChatGPT a lot for more for like my personal life, and I've been teaching my kids how to use it because I think it's important. Because I think AI technology is going to be huge, and when my kids are 9 and 6, so by the time they're in high school, I think it's really going to be big. And when they're in college, I can't even imagine where it will be. But for example, I've used it to, my son's really into playing the guitar. He's been playing for about a year or so. So I used it to ask ChatGPT to write a song. I gave it a topic about something for a 9-year-old to learn and play who had been playing the guitar for 1 year. And it wrote out the lyrics. It wrote out all of the chords. It wrote out all of the tablature for him to play. And he could actually sit there, play his guitar to this newly made song by AI and sing to it, which I thought was really amazing. And this all took place in a matter of like 3 seconds. I gave it the command and it shot out all this information. Have you used it at all in your personal life, or have you only been experimenting with it in your government life?
Well, that's a great example, because that shows that using AI as a tool that hopefully your kid's going to become a great guitar player, and then he's going to write maybe original music. And it's not saying that AI is going to write all the music, but AI is giving him the ability to learn and to being a teacher. You could see this democratizing education in many ways, democratizing access to healthcare. Imagine if people, especially in the developing world, had access to AI to do basic medicine that isn't going to have the same costs. I've used it in sometimes, in planning a trip, to say, hey, give me suggestions on what a trip could be. You could say, look, I want this budget. I want these places. These are things that I'm interested in. How would you go about it? And a lot of times it comes up with very interesting ideas, like what are good places to eat, and things that would take a much longer if you were typing it in and doing searches and trying to come up with it yourself. So that's one easy personal use for it.
I think it's interesting you mentioned medicine and like giving medicine to a developing nation. I think in the future, doctors and scientists are going to be able to use AI to come up with new medicines. They can put in data that they have and be like, we need a cure for this, or we need a treatment for this. And I think the AI will be able to come up with solutions. And I mean,
think they're already, I think they're already starting to do that, actually. I mean, they're using it for drug discoverability in some ways, but it's definitely going to get much more prevalent, I think.
Yeah, I can detect patterns and see what are possible permutations that can solve disease or customize things that you and Brian may have different issues in terms of how you respond to medicine, and how do we actually customize the medicine. But think of it very simply. You have someone go to the ER, they're nauseous and have a headache and other symptoms. A doctor diagnoses it, but instead says to AI right away, here's what I've got: a patient, this age, this gender, this ethnic background, these symptoms. And then AI comes up with like 4 possibilities of what it could be. That doesn't mean you take the human judgment away. I wouldn't want an AI robot treating me if I went to the ER, but I'd want a doctor probably who has the ER tool, the AI tool, to look at me, because that's better. It gives the doctor all the options. And I think we've got to look, there are dangerous uses of AI, but a lot of the uses of AI are to augment human beings. It's not to take away our intelligence. It's to allow us to use our intelligence in the best ways possible.
Yeah, I think that, like, the way I see it is just going to amplify all of us. So like anything that we're good at, it's going to make us even better. At least I hope. But obviously, like you said, there are dangers. What are you most concerned about? Like, are we going to have a Terminator 2 like event in the future? Are you concerned about something like that? And what can we do to make sure that something like that doesn't happen?
Well, I think we're a ways away still from artificial general intelligence, which is that what that would require, where people are competing not just in detecting patterns, but in actual comprehension. But we do need to have a human check. I mean, if you have a machine that's just programmed to detect patterns and complete a task, and there's no human check, then it's capable of making errors. It's capable of not having moral judgment. So I want to make sure that there's human check in any use of AI on a broad scale. I also want to make sure that we know whether we're talking to a human being or a robot or a machine. So you should, if you're an AI generated image, then you should know that people should know you're AI generated. And I want to make sure content is protected, right? Let's say you write a great play. Now some AI machine comes, takes your work, spits out something else. Well, the original playwright should have some compensation for that. And you can't just borrow things and not pay for the original content. So there are going to be a lot of issues like that. And then what is the impact on jobs? I mean, what is it going to automate some aspects of tech support, some aspects of writing code? What is the work that we're going to get for those folks? How do we make sure that we don't over automate things? What do I mean by over automation? I mean, I'm sure you've had an experience when you've gone to the CVS or a grocery store and you're on that scanner self-checkout line and you still end up having to call the person over and it's just a hassle because the machine isn't working. You know, there are ways that sometimes we over automate things, and we want to make sure it's a balance between human contact and machines.
What about rogue players? Like say, like you can, as a congressman, you can make laws for companies and corporations and even, even businesses run by individuals. But what about people who have nefarious ideas, people who might take an open source piece of AI software and use it behind the scenes in more of like a dark web type environment to do bad things? How do you control something like that?
Well, that's a big challenge. I mean, one right now check on that is the GPU power that it takes. And so you would need a country probably or an entity to have a lot of semiconductors and GPU horsepower to be able to do it. But, you could get that, and certainly other countries are going to get that. And this is the big debate then with AI is how much do we have it open source? Because the more open source you have, the more small players and startups get to participate, but also the more risk there is to it getting into wrong hands. And how much do we have proprietary, which makes that less? And I think that's a balance that we need a government to help strike.
Yeah, for sure. I want to move a little bit back into politics again. The 2024 primary season is just around the corner. It's heating up right now with the debates, I think next week, right? Do you think Donald Trump will be the GOP nominee?
I do. I was talking to a bunch of DeSantis supporters yesterday morning, and they said that every time Trump gets indicted, they become a little more sympathetic to Trump. So we're so polarized. I mean, I believe that the indictments are completely legitimate. You shouldn't try to overturn elections in America. Seems to me a pretty basic thing, which we learned in 3rd or 4th grade, that whoever gets the more votes wins. So I find what he did very wrong. But there are a lot of Republicans who view it as as political, and it's increased his support. I actually don't think. I know people criticize DeSantis or others. I don't think many of them have much of a chance ever since these indictments have come out. I think a lot of Republican support has rallied around Trump.
Yeah, and talking about the possibility that it's going to be another Trump-Biden election, Biden will be 86 at the end of his second term. Trump would be 82. Does that concern you? Does age concern you? Should we have more youth in politics, like yourself, right? Like, is that a concern that you have?
You mean you don't think, Brian, that the deep soul of America wants a Donald Trump, Joe Biden rematch of it? Sometimes you wonder, with 330 million, and this is the matchup we're going to
The
have.
media probably does, right?
Look, I think we need a new generation of people in this country, and we're going to get it in after this cycle. I think after this cycle, people are going to be so sick of it that they're going to be new voices and unexpected voices. I mean, who would have thought Bernie Sanders or Barack Obama or people who emerged, Pete Buttigieg? I think there's just going to be a whole new group of people, and that's going to be an exciting moment for the country.
All right, so now I want to play a game, if you're okay with it. I'm going to give you 2 things, and you're gonna say which one you prefer over the other. Are you okay?
All right. This is
All
what
right.
gets you in trouble. But let's go.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't get in trouble. Twitter, X, or Facebook?
Twitter X.
All
Much
right.
for Twitter X is a lot, Facebook is much more tame. I like getting into sparring matches and folks with people. My team hates that I tweet out as much as I do. There'll be like an account with like 5 followers. I'll retweet them, and everyone is like seeing the criticism about me. But I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fun, right? Pepperoni pizza or Hawaiian pizza?
Pepperoni pizza, pepperoni and sausage with pepperoni.
I think I side with you on that one too. How about Terminator 2 or Megan?
Yeah, Terminator 2. I was a Schwarzenegger fan. Yeah.
I'd agree on that one too. Okay, so there's an MMA match between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Who wins?
Elon. I think Elon will figure out how to win.
Who do you root for?
Oh, that's tough. Probably Elon, because I don't agree with a lot of his stuff. But when you look at SpaceX, when you look at the electric vehicle, when you look at some of the fundamental innovations that he's done, that's moved humanity forward.
All right, final question. Ed Krassenstein or Brian Krassenstein?
How can I ask? I know Brian better, but Ed, I know you too. So I mean, this is not.
So you mean me?
Not fair. I mean, this is not fair. It depends. There, I'm going to be political. I'm not going to answer that question.
Who do
Well,
you
yeah,
think
that-
would who do you think
Wait,
would
wait,
win
wait,
in
wait.
an MMA match?
I don't know. I'm going to have to ask ChatGPT. Let's ask
Okay, that's
ChatGPT.
fair.
I think that was-
That's what we got to do.
I think that was your political answer in saying Brian. I'm almost certain of that. But well, I want to thank you for being here. It's been great. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add. I just want to say that I love what you're doing. I love that you're forward thinking. You're really adept in technology and what's happening in the world. But yeah, like, is there anything we missed? Is there anything you want to tell our viewers? Anything like that?
Well, just keep doing what you're doing, because I think we need more shows like this where you don't just go on cable news for 2 minutes or have one tweet, and you get to have conversations about real things. Bern, I'm excited about the future of this country. I know that people are down about it. They think it's polarized. Our generation is going to have a chance to lead after Biden and Trump exit the stage. And it's a generation that is innovative. It's a generation that is so passionate about many issues, from climate to economic inequality to rebuilding industry in America. It's the most diverse generation ever. And it's going to be an exciting moment for this country. So, for folks who feel down and politics is broken, I say just stay with it. We've got to give these folks one more cycle, and then a new generation is going to get to lead this country.
Well, then I'll close it. Khanna 2028.
Well, there'll be a number of folks in 2028, but maybe it'll be the Brian and Ed ticket.
So is that confirmation you're planning to run in 2028?
No, now you guys are like Meet the Press. You had avoided Meet the Press until then. I'll be for the Krassenstein ticket. That's what I'll be for. Point me as your secretary.
We'll consider it
to go around the world.
You can be my VP. Ed can be left out.
Right.
No,
All right, thanks again, Ro. Really appreciate it.
Enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.